big fight today. We've got Piccolo from Dragon Ball Super versus old King Thor from Marvel Comics. We're going to look at each character's skills, feats, abilities, everything like that, and ultimately decide who would win if they were to fight. First, the results of the last match. We had Superman versus Sentry, and Superman won based on all of your votes, and we'll move forward in the bracket against Goku. But let's focus on today's match and get into who would win Piccolo versus old King Thor. An interesting fight. I didn't think Thor would make it this far. He did beat Broly in the last match, and now we've got Piccolo, which I am happy to see. And I do actually want to start with Thor as well. Again, this is specifically old King Thor, and this version is a version of Thor very, very far into the future, and he has the Odin Force, now called the Thor Force. And the Odin Force is the power of Odin. It's extremely powerful. If you've got it, you're pretty much de facto Skyfather terms of power. And this isn't the first time that Thor's had this power before in the comics. And so just to run through some things that he's able to do with this power, easily shatter planets for one. We've seen him do impossible feats like denting Captain America's shield with a single hit. We've seen him melt Wolverine's adamantium skeleton with his eye blasts. We know that he can erase people from existence. That's one of the powers of Odin. Being able to warp reality, create life, create the universe, things like that. Manipulate the soul, manipulate life, bring people back to life. You have pretty much cosmic awareness of everything going on in the Marvel Universe, infinite knowledge. And we've seen Odin before in his fights. Just a casual match that he was in, was destroying entire dormant galaxies, reigniting stars and things like that. Just from the aftermath or the byproduct of this fight that he was in. Not to mention directly, we see this enemy shoot at Odin Force Thor and Loki, who's the Sorcerer Supreme, extremely powerful. It immediately one-shots, destroys Loki, doesn't do anything to Thor, and then Thor one-shots him and kills him, and states that this power really knows no bounds. Specifically, as old King Thor, we see him do some impressive things as well. Most impressively are his fights. He fights a few key people, Galactus, he fights Gore the God Butcher, and subsequently Loki, who has the Dark Blade, and he fights against Old Man Phoenix, who is an ancient version of Wolverine who has the Phoenix Force and is as well extremely powerful. And here we see Thor taking massive blasts from people like Galactus, one of the most powerful beings in the Marvel Universe. He's able to strike back at Galactus, knocking him down, making him throw up, destroying his hand, breaking his hand. And again, all the while taking massive blasts from him as well. They hit so hard you can see it from outer space, from the planet that they're on. And during their fight, they're just casually destroying planets as well. In his fight against Gore the God Butcher and Loki with the Dark Blade, who are roughly equivalent to power, right? We see him doing insane things like fighting against an entire dimension. We see him fighting against the death and decay of the universe all on his own, which I assume is his reality warping abilities. We see him getting gutted and disemboweled and continuing to fight. We see him throw a sun at his opponent. Just wacky terms of power here. Not to mention, while they're casually fighting, just the lightning coming off of Thor as he's fighting is annihilating nearby planets. And something quite impressive we see him do is he hits Gore with the God Blast. Extremely powerful all-out attack that Thor can do. Hits him so hard he flies light years away and smashes into a planet. And immediately Thor is on his tail and is ready to continue the fight. So he flew light years in 1 second after hitting a guy light years away with a single attack. And against Old Man Phoenix, it's said that the heat, the fire coming off of this version of Wolverine and his claws is hot enough to melt stars. And during their epic fight, of course, he's getting slashed and clawed and stabbed by this version of Wolverine, and he's still fighting. And there's this insane, massive fight that they're doing where Thor summons a cyclone the size of a supernova that is sucking up planets, and then he throws it at Old Man Phoenix. So literally throwing planets and everything else at him. And then Old Man Phoenix on his part is launching forward at Odin, stretching light years wide, as big as a galaxy. It's one of the most insane comic book fights that I've ever seen, and speaks to the raw power of both of these characters. And we do know that, from an arm wrestling contest that Old Man Thor is stronger than Old Man Phoenix, but you can kind of gather that just a galaxy-destroying force of power is like nothing to these guys. That's the type of level that they're operating at. Not to mention insane powers like, again, life manipulation, soul manipulation, reality warping, being able to erase people from existence. Old King Thor is extremely, extremely powerful. But real quick, I do want to mention that I am crowdfunding my third graphic novel, Cardinal Starstruck, on Indiegogo. It's got great story, great art, it's action-packed. Please do follow the link in the description to check out the Indiegogo page. Look through all the information about the campaign and the book itself, and if it interests you, please do consider backing. I put a lot into this book. I think it's really great, and I think that you will really enjoy it as well. So again, please follow that link, and I appreciate any support. Thank you. On the other end, we've got Piccolo from Dragon Ball Super. Now, just the basics of Piccolo, we know that he is very powerful, always has been very powerful, up with Goku and Vegeta, but always a little bit below. He's an extremely skilled martial artist, various different ranged attacks, laser beams and things like that. Most famously, his special beam cannon, which in like regular Dragon Ball could blow up the moon. And his power level is millions of magnitudes higher now than it was then. In Dragon Ball Super, he has sort of his ultimate form, which is probably a little bit below Super Saiyan Blue Goku in terms of power level, which is probably roughly universal in terms of power. But that's not really what we're here for. We're here for the most powerful version of Piccolo that we can get our hands on, which is Orange Piccolo. During the Dragon Ball superhero movie, we see Piccolo get his new form. He makes a wish with the Super Dragon Balls and wishes for the internal power that he has to be unleashed. And he does that, and he gets access to his Orange Piccolo form. It is stated that this form that he has is on the same level as people like Goku and Vegeta in their Ultra Instinct and Ultra Ego forms, so putting him way high up in terms of power. We also see some pretty direct scaling. He's fighting these enemies during the Dragon Ball superhero movie that he clocks as being roughly on scale with Super Saiyan Blue, Goku, and Vegeta, and he gets washed pretty much by them. But then whenever he turns into his orange form, he one-shots them. We also see him fight Cell Max, who's not at his full power. It's said that at his full power, he would be more powerful than even Broly, so we can say that he's, maybe around Broly's level of power when he's not fully charged. Piccolo's fighting against him, doing pretty well. He doesn't win the fight against him on his own, but he's doing very well against him. He's able to grow to be enormous in size, and just the fact that he's trading blows with this guy who is, universe plus multiversal in terms of power is extremely impressive. And he finishes it off with a super special beam cannon with Gohan, knocking the dude's dome off. Extremely impressive. This level of Piccolo is faster, stronger, and way more durable than anything we've ever seen before. Again, he is roughly on par with Goku and Vegeta, though it is safe to say that he is lower than them, because we know that Beast Gohan is above Cell Max, and Cell Max is just above Orange Piccolo, and Beast Gohan is roughly on par with Ultra Instinct Goku, as we saw whenever they were sparring in the Dragon Ball Super manga, so Piccolo is probably rightfully a little bit below those guys. But that, at the very least, puts him at a multiversal level of power. So he's super strong, super fast, super durable, an extremely skilled fighter, able to fight against one of the most powerful villains we've ever seen in the Dragon Ball universe, being Cell Max, and having some of the largest, most devastating energy attacks we've ever seen with the giant special beam cannon. And he has size manipulation and are assuming the same regenerative abilities that Piccolo has always had. Now, these two meet each other on the battlefield. These two fight. Who actually wins this encounter? Now, I think that from the offset, if we're just comparing stats, stat for stat, I think that old King Thor has many advantages. I think when it comes to speed, I think he probably has the advantage, again, traveling light years in just like a second after he hit Gore light years away. When it comes to power output, I think we've seen more. Now, I know Orange Piccolo fighting Cell Max is a very high level of power output, and he's stated to be on par with people like Goku and Vegeta, but just what we've seen from old King Thor fighting people like Galactus, fighting against the death of the universe, fighting against Old Man Phoenix, things like that, and just what we've seen from Odin as well, who Odin and old King Thor should be roughly equivalent in terms of power. I think that we've just seen more from Thor at this point. Durability-wise, the same thing, because while we've seen Piccolo take hits from Cell Max, I think we've seen Thor take bigger hits from more powerful people. And on top of that, old King Thor just has more tricks up his sleeve when it comes to erasing someone from the universe, for example, or something like that. We've just seen more from him in terms of power. Now, that doesn't necessarily mean that Piccolo is out. I think up close, Piccolo still has the advantage because of his martial arts skill, and he is extremely powerful as well. I think if Piccolo is wailing on Thor, Thor is definitely going to feel it. But I don't know if he necessarily is going to put the guy down, just because of what we've seen him tank from other beings. Overall, I think that old King Thor just has a general advantage everywhere you look. I mean, could Orange Piccolo survive a giant electric cyclone attack the size of a supernova? Could he survive existence erasure or survive these hits that are putting Galactus on his ass? And can Orange Piccolo hit as hard as Old Man Phoenix's claws that can melt stars? Can he hit as hard as Galactus? I don't know. I'm not convinced. I don't think we've seen enough from him. And even from his hypothetical scaling of power, I don't think that's enough to necessarily guarantee him the win. So overall, just from what we've seen from both parties, I think old King Thor wins this. I think in the future, if we see more from Orange Piccolo, there is a chance that he could come back and win this. But even then, things like magic, things like existence erasure, things like that, will always be a sticky subject, will be tough for him to overcome, and will be an advantage for Thor. But overall, from what we've seen, I think that old King Thor wins this. In an all-out brawl, or just based on the hacks that he has available to him, I don't think Piccolo has enough to put him down. But like always, it's not up to me. You all get to go vote. Go to the communities page on my YouTube channel. Vote for who you want to win and advance in the bracket, and also let me know in the comments who you think would win and why. And I'll see you in the next video.